Dear friends, welcome to the season of Lent 2021. Of course, we begin with Ash Wednesday. And as the book of the prophet Joel reminds us, today is like a trumpet, trumpeting what is ahead of us. Ahead of us is a season of Lent that's full of celebration and reflection of the core, fundamental mysteries in our Christian life. We're talking about the Paschal mystery, the passion and death and resurrection of Christ. That all of us, Christians, especially Catholics, are invited during this time to take a pause. Not so much to look back though. Not so much to look back because past is past and there's not much we can do about the past. But for me, Lent is a time we are all invited to take stock of who am I at this moment in my life? Where am I at this moment in my life? What person have I become? Meaning that through all the things that we've been through together, obviously the pandemic continues to threaten us. It continues to put us on edge and gives us, presents us a lot of inconveniences. And in addition to that, all the challenges that are related to this pandemic, marital relationship perhaps, or family, or the experience of loss, the experience of illnesses that we have experienced, all of this kind of beg the questions during this Lent, what person have I become? How have I been formed and shaped by all of this? You know, St. Paul in his letters, he said that, because of the faith, God has given us this beautiful gift of faith that all of this darkness, all of these challenges that we experience should not have caught us off guard, should not have caught us unaware, because our faith basically reminds us that there is a God. There is a God in spite of everything, how dark our life may have become, or we may have been through a very, very difficult time, but our faith tells us that there is a God who works visibly and invisibly, as our creed reminds us. So this Lent invites us to take stock, or where is my faith right now? What is the state of my relationship with God? Am I conscious of this? Am I conscious of God working in my life? But don't worry, dear friends. That's why as we begin this season of Lent, the gospel today reminds us of this beautiful recipe to be able to have a fruitful and meaningful assessment of our lives, of who we are. This recipe is beautiful steps. We're reminded of prayer. We are reminded of fasting. We are reminded of alms giving. Prayer is very important because it reconnects us back to God. Some of us perhaps have become cold or lax in our prayer life. We become distant from God for some times, probably because of something happened that made us experience that God may be far away from us. That is why we felt cold. But this is the time, Lent, to reconnect ourselves back to that source of everything, the creator of everything. And how we do that? We restart our prayer, because prayer in itself is relationship. Prayer is relationship. But that relationship will, from God's end, that relationship never stops. God continues to love us as God's children, just like you parents loving your children, even if your kids go to college already, far away from you. That relationship, that bond continues to connect you together. Meaning, this is prayer. Prayer is a relationship. This season of Lent give us a moment to make that relationship warm again, allowing us to see God eye to eye once again. This is prayer. We put ourselves in the presence of God. And secondly, There is fasting. I know many people have different expressions on how they understand fasting. But fasting is always connected with prayer. As a matter of fact, fasting intensifies prayer. If we are longing to be reconnected with God, conscious of that relationship, then fasting binds us faster. This fasting makes us speed that relationship, that desire to reconnect. If that means for us to give up something, if that means that to sacrifice on something, if that means to hurt ourselves a little bit, to show God, Lord, I am really, serious about getting back with you, getting back in this relationship with you. That is why I am fasting right now. At the same time, some of us will also fast for others, which is also a beautiful Christian expression. We fast for the good of others. We fast so that others' prayers too, others too may remain in their prayers and steadfast in their faith. And the last one is almsgiving. Almsgiving is a beautiful Christian experience. Not only that it is an expression of a life of prayer, because a life of prayer almost automatically expresses itself in charity. So almsgiving, yes, not just charity. It is an expression of prayer. But at the same time, too, for me, charity or almsgiving reminds me that I just don't live for myself. I just don't exist for myself. That I belong to this humanity, this community of humanity that I am with. I don't just work for myself. I don't just breathe for myself. I live with a community. This is almsgiving. And almsgiving, of course, is expressed in charity. You may be thinking right now of some charitable institutions that you are really thinking, especially charitable institution that takes care of life. There are, for example, hospitals that try to save babies or children from the harsh condition of cancer, and those who are in rehabilitation, those in the orphanage, or those who are home for the aged, and all levels of life where charitable institutions are working. You're probably thinking of that right now. How am I able to express my prayer life? How is this relationship with God able to express in real practical terms? So prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, these are proven from ancient times throughout the history of the church that help us bring our relationship back to God, because this Lent is exactly that moment to revive, to warm up our relationship with Christ. So I invite you, dear friends, as the church, the whole universal church, invite you, come home. I think this is a beautiful theme for Lent this year. Come home to God and be mindful. Always remember that there is a God who is waiting for us. There's a church that awaits for us. There's a church that opens its doors for all of us, so that you and I will once again exist with one another in the name of God, and enjoy and have a happy and beautiful, fruitful and meaningful season of Lent ahead of you. Thank you, dear friends, and God bless you all.